Hey man, I just tell the truth,
Come on, man.
and they don't like that.
Aaron, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you coming in. What's your thoughts about what's happened? The US has attacked Iran's nuclear facilities. What's your initial thoughts?
So I'm actually on stream right now. I literally woke up and I looked at my phone and I saw that the U.S. had just attacked Iran, and I just fucking scrambled into my studio and turned the cameras on and fucking started covering this because this is not good whatsoever. And I don't think people understand how big of a deal this is. I don't normally stream on Saturdays. I feel like shit, but I'm here anyway because, excuse me, I don't think people understand the ramifications of what this just done. Because, see, the reality is this, man. What Iran has that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about that actually is worse than a nuclear bomb is they're in a strategic position to make all of our lives hell. And by us destroying their nuclear facilities, we pretty much took out the only thing that they had to insulate themselves from Western influence, the Israel and the United States, right? The proxies were the first barrier. They were destroyed. Then it was the nuclear capability. That was just destroyed. Then now all they have left really is the ballistic missiles and their regime. And Iran has been there as we've toppled every single government in the Middle East that has threatened Israel, right? This isn't about Israel surviving. It's about Israel thriving and becoming the hegemony in the Middle East. This is what this all is about. And don't let them fool you and say, oh, it's about getting rid of the nuclear weapons. It's not about getting rid of the nuclear weapons. It's about regime change. The nuclear weapons are just the bullshit guys so they can go ahead and effectuate the regime change that they want. They want to install a puppet government in there like they did before with the Shah, who was overthrown by his own people because he went ahead and allowed the West to absolutely rape Iran of their resources, oil, and other things. Jackson Nickel did a really good post on it when he responded to PBD on, you know, the whole history of Iran. And we've been meddling in their affairs since the 1950s with Operation Ajax. So there's always been this resentment between the United States and Iran. So when they go ahead and they say, oh, they chant death to America. Yeah, they chant death to America because we have pulled out of the nuclear deal that we promised we would stay in. We put them on the foreign terrorist organization list. We put crippling sanctions on them that destroyed their economy. We've been involved in their foreign affairs since the 1950s when they had Mogadishu and had an actual democratically elected leader. We put in a Shah that oppressed them and raped them of their resources. Yeah, of course they're going to be fucking pissed off. And then we arm and strengthen their enemy who constantly attacks them and does a bunch of shit in their country, right? Whether it's bombing the embassy in Damascus or dropping bombs on kids in Gaza, all of the stuff that gets done, we end up funding it. So yes, they're obviously going to have animosity towards us because of our really bad fucking foreign policy. And for us to allow and enable Israel to attack them with Operation Rising Lions last week, that was kind of it was a double-edged sword because what ended up happening was people that were critical of the regime ended up uniting under the regime, and Iran started hitting Israel very hard. And the reason why Trump had to hit now, right? He won't admit this, but the real reason why he had to hit now instead of the 2 weeks like he said he would, number one, he wanted the air of surprise. And then number two, a lot of people don't know this. Bannon went to him yesterday and talked him out of doing it. He was going to bomb them yesterday, guys. He was going to bomb them yesterday. Bannon went in there and told him, dude, don't do it. Give it another day at least. And that's why he decided to do it today. Also, the stock market isn't up on a Saturday. That was another reason as well. He didn't want the fucking markets to go crazy and skyrocket. That's another reason why he did Saturday. But the point here is that what he's basically done, and this is going to be the bottom line here. Iran has now nothing to lose. And that's very dangerous. When you got a country that has nothing to lose, and they've seen what we've done before, what we did to Saddam Hussein, what we did to Libya, Gaddafi, what we did to all these other Middle Eastern countries where we either destroyed them or we bribed them, they're not going to surrender. So at this point, we're looking at Iran hitting us, not in a way that's going to hurt us militarily, but guess what? How much oil goes through the Strait of Hormuz? Guess how many oil barrels there come through from that area of the world? We're talking about 30 million barrels a day or something crazy like that? That can absolutely fuck us all up if they were to target these oil structures. And that would be worse than a nuclear bomb, because let's say they did have a nuclear bomb and they decided to bomb Tel Aviv. That's one thing, right? But if they decide to go ahead and hit some of these oil fields all across the Gulf, which they have missiles pointed at, by the way, and they have 100% capability of hitting them, or U.S. bases that don't have a fucking Iron Dome, we're talking about dead Americans. We're talking about oil fields getting put on fire, and we're talking about gas prices skyrocketing overnight. And it's not just the gas price that go up. Gas controls everything. We don't have really any other means of energy that's as reliable or as mass scaled as gas. So we're talking about fucking food prices skyrocketing. We're talking about heating costs skyrocketing. We're talking about world trade in general slowing down, right? This affects everything. And the problem is this. They've put them in a position now where they're like, fuck it. Okay, you guys want to go ahead and take us down? We're going to make sure everybody suffers as a part of it. Then also, I was watching some news yesterday. The Chinese made a mention that it would be very bad for the United States to get involved in this conflict. So there's just so many other variables now that can come into play that could fuck us up, because China also has a vested interest in Iran not getting toppled, because they get a significant amount of their oil from Iran. So we'll see what happens, man, but I'll turn it to somebody else.
Can I jump in real quick, Mark?
Yeah, I'm done.
I don't think you painted enough of a glim picture, to be honest.
It's worse than I said, huh?
Yeah, there's 5 major oil fields in the Middle East, right? All within reach of Iran. If they have nothing to lose, they just need to set them on fire, which would be easy to do. No real way to defend them.
Yep.
There would be no food in supermarkets for the next 3 years, basically, if that happened. Energy would be a severe shortage as well. On top of that, Trump just completely nuked the IAEA, right? The Atomic Energy Association, whatever it is. Typically, when you're a member of them and you're cooperating with them, you don't get attacked. You don't attack their nuclear facility. It's actually illegal to attack their nuclear facility. And when you do it for a non-IAEA country, even worse. If I was Canada, if I was Germany, if I was Japan, if I was North Korea, if I was Russia, if I was China, tomorrow I would be leaving the IAEA, because Trump just killed all authority that it has. Why would you follow policy that only one country gets to not follow, especially when you do it for a country that doesn't follow the IAEA at all, right? So Iran has a lot of options here. Don't forget that they also bombed Russian scientists that were helping with the nuclear facility to build a power plant, not a nuclear weapon. I think it's a lot worse than people think. I think the Strait of Hormuz is the first thing that happens, but I honestly believe America will probably send ships and be able to eventually clear it out, but there'll be a lot of ships that get damaged, and insurance prices will go up, oil prices will go up. But then when they really pressure them, if the United States comes back, which I assume they will, to be honest, what's Iran left with? And like, I made a post with a timeline. Iran constantly did not choose violence. When they had their nuclear facility bombed before, 4 years ago, 5 years ago now, 5 years ago, they didn't retaliate. They increased the enrichment, and they kept increasing the enrichment in order to go back to the negotiating table to get off the sanctions, even though they had scientists assassinated, they had tech people assassinated, they had military men assassinated, they had the general assassinated. They didn't retaliate with violence. They just kept increasing the enrichment in order to go back to the table. Did they not choose violence? Guess what? If I was them, if you put yourself in their shoes, what do you do now? Being peaceful, trying to do the right thing, trying to be diplomatic did not work, right? They finally got attention when they started attacking Israel, and the world seems to be like, why the hell are we getting involved? But if they go back, they only have one choice left. They don't have a nuke, although that's what you keep getting sold on, is that they have a nuke or they can build a nuke. No, but they have within their reach it's the 5 biggest oil fields in the world.
Yep.
That they could set on fire, and they can't be repaired for 10 years.
Dude,
and what that would cause is the downgrade of society, civil society everywhere.
And
everywhere.
that's my argument, is that's worse than a nuclear bomb. And it's fucking crazy to me that, like, more people weren't coming out, because everyone was saying, like, yo, we don't want another war. We don't want another war. I've been saying this since the beginning of the conflict, and I'm going to say it again. Iran cannot stand up to us militarily, but they can absolutely cripple us economically. And Trump literally ran on no new wars and also bringing down the price of groceries and food. Guess what's going to fucking happen if they decide to go and attack these oil fields? And it's not just in the United States that's going to feel it. They're going to get the entire world is going to fucking feel it, because we're talking about what? 20, 30% of the world's oil is in that region. And Iran has bombs that are pointed at, and they're not protected. So if they go ahead and light these barrels on fire, it's going to fuck everybody up economically. That's way worse than a nuclear bomb. And then when you you think to yourself, okay, why are we doing this? For what? For fucking Israel? So they can go ahead and control the Middle East? Because that's what this is about. They'll sit there and say, oh, Iran is the biggest sponsor of terror, blah, 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 blah. Let's go ahead and go through history real quick. Right? Back in 2015, when Obama was going ahead and trying to negotiate the nuclear deal, right? And all these other countries were involved. France, Russia, China, etc. Right? I don't know if China was involved, but other countries were involved with this deal. Right? Back then, things were going well. Iran was following they were letting IAEA inspectors come and check their facilities. They were cooperating. They were going ahead and sending parts of the uranium, the enriched uranium, to France and Russia. Basically, there was a system put in place to ensure that they can never enrich to 90% or weapons grade. They were working with other countries to make sure that this happened. So there was checks and balances, and the international community was involved in the entire process, right? Then Trump comes in 2018. Who went ahead and told Trump to pull out the nuclear deal? A fucking dickhead named Mike Pompeo, right? And for those that don't know who Mike Pompeo is, Mike Pompeo was his director of CIA and the Secretary of State back then. So 2018, he pulls out the deal. 2019, Mike Pompeo puts the IRGC on a foreign terrorist organization list because he's the Secretary of State. He has the authority to do that. Once they get put as the FTO, crippling sanctions start to hit Iran and they go broke, right? So he goes ahead and pulls out the nuclear deal, puts them on a list. Ask yourself, why did he do that? Because Mike Pompeo is a hardcore fucking Zionist. He also was one of the main guys that told Trump to move the embassy to Jerusalem. Okay? And then, after that happened, right, because obviously Netanyahu was mad about the whole nuclear deal, etc., and didn't want them to be involved. It was never about actually stopping them from getting nukes, because they were cooperating and didn't want to even have the nukes. They wanted the sanctions off. The only thing Iran wants is fucking sanctions lifted. They want the sanctions lifted more than having a fucking nuclear bomb. So when people say, oh, well, they enriched uranium to 60%. Yeah, because we totally double-crossed them and broke the deal. We pulled out the deal. We put them on the terrorist watch list. We sanctioned them to fucking hell. So what do they have left? Of course, they're going to go ahead and start enriching uranium to a higher level so they can go ahead and defend themselves and also have a bargaining chip to barter with. That 60% uranium that they were enriching, or 80%, whatever fuck people want to say, that was literally to trade to get the sanctions relief. That's what they cared about. So clearly, they were able to see that despite the fact that Obama negotiated a very fucking good deal back in 2015 that would have everybody winning, Trump, at the behest of the Zionist lobby and his fucking dumbass advisor, Mike Pompeo, pulled out the deal. I also think it's important, another little fun fact for you guys, Mike Pompeo was the guy that told Donald Trump to not declassify the JFK files. Why is this important? Because we know that JFK was the last president that stood up to the Israel lobby and told them, you motherfuckers have nukes, and we know that you guys got nukes. We need to get some goddamn inspections, right? And when Trump was, and this was back like 2020-ish, right? Because Trump was thinking about declassifying the documents right before he left office. And Mike Pompeo was one of the biggest people that told him not to declassify. Trump admitted this when he went on the Joe Rogan podcast last year while he was on campaign, that Mike Pompeo was one of the main people. So is it interesting that the guy that made Trump pull out the fucking nuclear deal is also the guy that told Trump not to declassify the documents that implicate Israel as having nuclear weapons? Because remember, guys, we knew all this time that JFK was involved in stopping or trying to stop Israel from getting the nuclear bomb. And we also know that Israel had a hand in him being assassinated. And then when the documents did finally get declassified and we looked at them, what did it show? Israeli intelligence community all over the fucking documents were there, and that they had been redacted on all the other iterations of the classified documents coming out. So what's the bottom line? The bottom line is simply this. Mike Pompeo, running cover for the Zionist lobby, pulled out the nuclear deal and also protected the classified documents from coming out that implicate Israel as being a nuclear power, and verifying that, in fact, Israel was involved and had a hand in JFK being assassinated. And that's kind of like, and when you look at everything all together with pulling out the nuclear deal, putting them on foreign terrorist lists, that leading to them sanctions, I can see why Iran operated the way that it did. But now we put them in a corner where they got nothing to lose. And we're talking about, They don't want to get the regime changed. They saw what happened to fucking Saddam Hussein. They saw fucking Gaddafi get sodomized on the streets of his own country. They saw Saddam Hussein get fucking hung. They don't want that to happen to them. So they got nothing to lose, bro. And again, this is all for fucking Israel. I want to remind everybody here, this is all for fucking Israel. They once again were able to successfully make their problems our fucking problems, and now we're gonna have to fucking clean up because we know for a fact Israel can't really defend itself. They say they're gonna defend themselves, but they fucking can't. We always have to come in and save these fucking retards.
Okay, so let's break down if there is a retaliation based upon trying to impact the price of oil. Whether that be shutting down the Strait of Hormuz.
So Simon, a quick update of about 50 plus oil tankers are currently moving away from the Straits of Hormuz. They're not even going to try to enter it right now. So they're diverting from their usual path. So it's already had an immediate impact. But go on. I have some. Ryan, when you say like the proxies are gone, they're not. Like Ansarullah is still fine. They're still striking in Israel.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying they're weakened.
Gone. They're trying to work things
they're
out.
Weakened. They're weakened. They're not gone, of course, but yeah.
Well, okay. So this is testimony from American naval officials when discussing Ansarullah. The reason why Trump made a deal with them is because they're too strong to take out. They couldn't take them out. So they're just like, look, don't strike American ships. You can still strike Israel. And they said, fine. We're never going to strike American. We're not planning to strike American ships anyway. The last time they did was back in December. So they couldn't beat Ansarullah. So they're strong. They're stronger. And now they're saying they're going to go all in. That's a problem. And first, you haven't seen all the evidence, but Fordo hasn't even been struck successfully. It's still operational. And apparently they moved all of the fissile material anyway, but it's safe. They only struck maybe 2 tunnels and an entrance. So Trump's strikes failed. He can try and take a victory lap all he likes, but it failed. And based on testimony of the residents close by in Shiraz, in Esfahan, etc., they're not making much of it. They're not panicked or worried because it wasn't as bad as what's been made out to be, but they're still going to use it as a pretext to strike, the 10 immediate bases that are close by it. Just to add some perspective here. Trump is, of course, grossly exaggerating, using hyperbole to describe what's taking place. That's what he always does. We knew he was going to do that. He's, of course, going to give himself a huge pat on the back. Oh, what no army's ever done. Well, you didn't do it either. So now why you can take a victory lap if you like. But now he's put American lives at risk, risking a full-scale regional war, as other countries may get involved now too. All, as you put it correctly, to uphold Israel's interests, because he's beholden to Israel. He always has been. He's taken money from the likes of Mary Mendelsohn, Charles Kushner, Sam Altman, all kinds of Jews. The Jews own him. They've owned him for a long time. And so he has to do their bidding. And for those still wanting to claim he's a peacemaker, no, he's just initiated more war. There's a third war now. And that's going to be his legacy. He's a warmonger that could lead the world into World War III. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but that's what's at stake here. And he's done nothing to try to secure any type of deal with Iran. In fact, he's used his position to be deceptive and a coward, in fact, because he didn't have the ability or the wherewithal to try to come up with a reasonable deal or show that he could stand up to Israel. He's shown that he's Israel's bitch, essentially. Those are some of my thoughts.
Appreciate that. Some more breaking news. The tweet it's about the Strait of Hormuz. Currently, around 50 large oil tankers are trying to exit the Strait of Hormuz in anticipation of its possible closure. So that's happening right now. I want to welcome Michael Tracy onto the